I'll make a very quick self-introduction because I'm a little bit different from the others. We are a popular science website, like the Geek site.
Oh,
we
awesome.
have over like millions of subscribers here. They're all like young people, teenagers.
Well, I'm a total geek, and I'll talk about science. You want to talk about last night? I'll let you.
So I can put questions in science.
You can ask me about quantum physics, quantum entanglement.
Really? Yeah, I'll do this question first. Given that mutants' abilities are so supernatural, and how's your visual approach to that? Are you considering the physics laws of the abilities?
Oddly enough, yes, I actually think about those kinds of things. I mean, they're powers, there's something supernatural about them, but I'll give you an example. Stanley and I had an argument. Stanley said that Storm could not be a mutant because she changed the weather, which is outside of herself. And I said to Stan, I said, no, every time we enter a room, we create heat in that room. We have neuroelectricity running through us at all times. So what if you could amplify that? I mean, in a major way. You could change the temperature, you could emit lightning, you could create the weather and change it. And so in each way, parts of the human body, parts of how we're made up, I kind of, ways we look, we grow, we transform, I kind of look at all that and the science behind it before I just jump into a character that can shoot things out of his eyes or morph into something else. I think about those things, but as I said, I'm a bit of a nerd and a bit of a science geek.
So you have scientists over the project?
No, but I'm friends with a lot of scientists, and my stepfather's a mathematician, and I also have had long talks with James Cameron about, particularly on the last movie, about time travel and about collapse, the superposition, and the idea of two things, two time frames happening simultaneously, and then collapsing the superposition, and that sort of was the impetus. That was my idea for Wolverine. Until he wakes up, he's the observer. So until he wakes up, past and future coexist. The moment he wakes up, superposition collapses, and reality takes hold, which is a sort of
quantum physics.
Theoretical quantum physics.
Okay, talking about going to the past. So which one you think is more difficult, like beating the most powerful mutant in history, or going back to changing the future?
I think changing the future is the most precarious, so that's why it was very important in the last movie that I had the scene that describes the theory of time's immutability, which means the idea that even if you break time, even if you alter history, time will correct itself, or may correct itself. So with this movie, what's so awesome and fun about that is some characters, like Professor Xavier with the bald hair and the wheelchair, are moving closer towards their destinies. While other characters, and I don't want to give away the ending, like Raven and some other characters, are actually moving away from the destinies that we know from the other movies. But it's also an origin story as well with the young characters, so that's existing as well.
So, destiny, so did any character's journey make you feel your heart was being torn for being so emotional?
Yes, there was a moment on the film that has never happened before where Michael Fassbender showed up in the woods with a scene with his family, which is very tragic.
I know that.
And he asked me not to call cut. So I said, okay. So I'm in the tent with the video monitor and I have my earphones on, and he improvised the scene, or most of the end of the scene, and I started to cry. And I have a son, maybe it's because of that. But it was done. When he finished and came walking, I left the tent and I walked over to him and I hugged him, Michael Fassbender, and I said, thank you for that gift. Now, can you do it again?
Oh no.
Because I need to put the cameras here now and there, and he said, yeah, right, okay, and he just did it again, same emotion, same everything. He's a very
good actor.
Oh yeah.
So, how do you describe the relationships between like Magneto and Professor X?
Well, the expression I keep using is they're frenemies. They're friends, but they've also been enemies. The thing is, they're bound by the same ideology. They just go about acting upon it differently. Professor Xavier, if he wanted to, could walk inside Cerebro, put on the helmet, and control the whole world. He chooses not to. He chooses to be a teacher at a university or a school. And he wants his message to organically make its way through humanity and through mutant kind. Magneto is far more militant than that. He believes that the only path to equality or dominance of the mutant population is through violence and military force. But that's never really worked out for him. So in this movie, we find him just living off the grid, probably living as his parents once did in Poland, working at a factory. And then this terrible thing happens, and he's brought so low that when Apocalypse, this giant mutant with a god complex, comes along, Magneto is so hurt and so empty that he is now susceptible to Apocalypse's persuasion.
Okay. So about bad guys, is there any characters in the movie or in the all X-Men movies? Is there a character that you dislike so much, which you would have the scriptwriter give him a very, very bad ending?
Apocalypse. Yeah, I think anyone who thinks they're a god and wants to wipe out most of the earth is a pretty bad guy, and yet he is very hard to defeat. So what's cool in this movie is instead of just a punching fest at the end, we have multiple battles occurring on both the physical and the metaphysical plane. And that's what makes the final sequence in this movie very interesting, as well as something that happens with Jean Grey.
And he's dead finally, right? Okay. And compared to the old version of the X-Men trilogy, what made this version different in terms of directing?
This film was 50 times bigger, more complex. The one Quicksilver scene alone took a month and a half to shoot 2 minutes of film. We not only used visual effects and explosive algorithms, we also shot with the new Phantom 3D cameras, moving through explosions at 3,000 frames per second in 3D. We blew up our sets. We did incredible stunt work with Evan Peters. He worked 17 days on the one sequence. And then there were just other images that I've always wanted to see in the X-Men universe that were very complex in visual effects, and then in 3D. Plus, we are one of the few movies that actually shoots native stereo, meaning we shoot in genuine 3D. So the 3D quality is very good.
I'm a little bit curious about the Quicksilver scene. Like, how do you talk to Evans? Like, you have to shoot one scene like in 17 weeks.
Oh, you just tell him this is what it is, and he enjoys it. Evan actually has a lot of fun with the character. He enjoys the little beats where he can put he can put a smile or a wink into the moment. But how he does it's really interesting. I'll give you one example. When he jumps up on the wall, he's really running on a treadmill, and then he just jumps to another treadmill, but the camera goes, and things like that. So there's a lot of trickery involved. And I think Evan not only likes playing the character because he's so funny and charming, but he also enjoys watching the cinematic technology and trickery that we use.
So the X-Men story seems to be serious at all times. Would you intentionally add funny elements in the movie?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's very important. One, because an audience wants more than just serious, they want some humor. Two, humor can be a very disarming tool. Get an audience laughing or get an audience, involved with the characters by making them laugh, and then suddenly things get dark and scary. It's, it should have all those things. That's why Quicksilver, Nightcrawler is very funny in the movie. Professor X improvises, particularly in the CIA scene. He's just improvising all of that with Rose Byrne, with Moira McTaggart. It's funny stuff, and I'm happy it's in the movie.
Okay, last question is: do you think Xavier's school for gifted youngsters is a proper place for education, like the young mutant people?
I think Xavier's school is, but I think what Xavier says his aspirations are would be even better, and that's a giant university where mutants and humans study together. That's his vision, and I think that's the best place, because you want harmony between different kinds of people, and so that would be the ideal situation.
Okay.
But as Raven points out to him in the movie, the world is not ideal in every place.
Yes.